Overwatch has always had an awkward Genji problem, and that's what I'm going to be talking about today. Hi everybody, my name is Abby. Welcome to the video, and I hope you're having a great day. It's early morning for me, so good morning. Let's not waste any more time. And before anything we do with the video, have a quick look at this statistic over here. More than half of you are coming back to watch the video because you're enjoying the content, but you're not subscribed. Guys, if you can help a brother out and just hit the subscribe button, it means a lot. It helps with the algorithm, and you can still keep watching my videos, but this time you'll be informed because they'll be sent into your subscription box. You know how it is. Anyways, guys, that's going to be it for the intro. Let's get straight into the video and talk about the state of Genji. So, since the origin, since the release of Overwatch, there's been a couple of heroes that overwhelm newer players to the game, and rightfully so, because they can be very fast-paced. Some of these heroes can be boiled down to characters like Genji, Tracer, and, well, nowadays, in the state of Overwatch 2, the newly reworked Sombra. I've been seeing a lot of complaints about her on the forums and things like that, oh my god, Sombra is broken, even though we all know that the higher up you go, she's a little bit more underwhelming. So, I've been kind of thinking about it these past few weeks. The content in Overwatch has been a little bit dry. The videos have, been slowed down this month. So, apologies for that. We definitely have a lot more content coming out this week leading up to Season 9. So, don't worry. I got you guys' back. But it gave me a lot of time to think about, I feel like it's time to sit down and really talk about this one issue and see if I can, find a middle ground for everybody to understand that, well, especially for the casual players, that Genji is not as broken as you think. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today. So, the problem is that when newer players come to the game, they run into a couple of characters that definitely catch them off guard. They will be running into characters like Hanzo, where they get really upset that, well, I was standing in main and my head got blown off. That's clearly because the Hanzo is not good at the game. It's the size of the projectile being massive, even though Hanzo has one of the, if not the most smallest projectile in the game, right next to Genji as well. Then there's characters like Genji and Tracer that will exploit mistakes of bad players and, basically run off of that and dominate the game. And then those players are like, well, I shouldn't be punished for my mistakes because, Genji and Tracer are broken, even though both of them are relatively, very fairly balanced, and both of them are high skill, high reward heroes. Well, in this case, in Genji's case and Tracer's case, nowadays they're high skill, almost high-ish reward, but more often than not, they'll be giving you medium reward because they need a lot more support from the team nowadays. So when it comes to the state of the two heroes, I would actually argue that Genji, Tracer, and even Sombra nowadays, these three characters that get complained about the most from the DPS role, they're pretty balanced. But the discourse, the disparity, the disconnect where we run into from the people that, let's say, are diamond and above and people that are like platinum and below, they're getting overwhelmed constantly by this idea that, well, this character is just so overwhelming. I'm just going to talk about Genji for now, otherwise the video will drag out for too long. Is they start saying things like, well, Genji's too overwhelming because, Dragonblade does this, his Deflect is pretty OP, his dash does that, he gets a dash reset, why does he get a dash reset, why don't I get a dash reset, or something like that. And they ignore a lot of they basically lack a lot of fundamental understanding of the game, so they don't necessarily understand why the hero is the way he is. And the higher up you go, the more this hero begins to just kind of disappear from the game. Why? Because the things that Genji was able to exploit in those lower elo lobbies are not happening as much. So what are those things that happen in lower elo lobbies? Even in the gameplay footage right now that's playing in the background that I'm playing quick play, I'm playing against lower elo lobbies, and you can see me exploiting some mistakes here and there. You'll be seeing me exploiting mistakes such as being out of position, going on random flanks, doing silly things, shooting into my deflect, etc, etc. So other than the pop-off moments of where I pull out Blade and get enabled by a Mercy or Ana, that aside, a lot of the times when you are popping off on a character like Genji, it's mostly because the other person is making a mistake. You're able to identify what that mistake is, you're able to isolate that target, and then get rid of them. Nowadays I see a lot of these murders just going on the flank, they get deleted, and they immediately drop a slur in the text chat, and they never get banned because the only people Blizzard bans are people that generally want to try and play this game competitively. I digress. We already spoke about the report system problems in another video, and I'm the only content creator that even bothered to talk about it, and I'm really disappointed that the other content creators don't talk about it and act like it's not a problem. Anyways, I'm not going to rant about that in this video. My point basically is that a lot of these low elo players, they don't realize they have to respect the skill curve that they are going through. That the process that they're in is that they're not just learning their characters, they have to also understand how to play against other characters. They don't understand how to play against a Genji. A lot of the times, if you're smart with your positioning, if you're smart with your positioning and your cooldown usages, you can immediately shut down value of that Genji player and either force him away or force him into a situation where he's not going to win the duel. For example, let me talk about Ana. Like, let's say you're an Ana player that's learning the character, and maybe your aim is not the best. Well, that's okay. The only thing you need to be good at doing if a Genji like comes for you or dives you is making sure that you can land that nade. Why? Because the nade has a big AoE. Most likely you'll catch him and yourself in that nade, and then try to give him a follow-up shot or regroup to a nearby teammate, or spam the help button, or just play close to a teammate in general, so that whenever you do land this nade, not only did you benefit yourself and the other teammate, but you also just pressured out this Genji that shit, well, it's either I die here or I try my best to commit and win this duel, but more often than not, the Genji is not going to win because of just how powerful a cooldown like nade can be. And for different support heroes, for different damage and tank heroes, there's many ways to interact with that. Then there's complaints. There are things like, well, Genji's Deflect is kind of OP because he gives himself invulnerability from the frontal angle. Well, that's completely false. Genji's not invulnerable. I know there's been some people saying it. There was a 𝐒𝐈𝐊𝐶 content creator that also tried to use that as an argument that no, actually, Suzu is not that broken. It's actually Genji's Deflect and Reaper's Wraith that are much more broken than that, which is incredibly silly because Genji's Deflect completely is dependent on the person in front of him. If they don't shoot at it, the Deflect has gotten like negative value. And then, like, most importantly, like from that point on, if we're also talking about like how Deflect works, first of all, Deflect is incredibly buggy nowadays, and secondly, there's so, like, I think like 60% of the abilities in this game either ignore the way Deflect functions or it goes right through it. Like, there's so many things in the game that you can do to play around Deflect. Like, I can start naming it right now off the DPS roster just themselves. Like, for example, like Ashe, she throws a dynamite above Genji's head while he's deflecting and then pops it and he takes burn damage. Deflect was useless over there. Bastion can position his grenade to just hit the side of Genji and he gets value over there. So 𝐒𝐿 has her beam, right? 𝐒𝐿 has her beam. 𝐒𝐿 can throw her stickies at the floor rather than towards Deflect around the Genji, like, my point basically is, and then, Mei and Symmetra's whole characters ignore Genji. Sombra basically gets a free hack when he's deflecting. So my point basically is that there's many ways to play around abilities that a lot of these people don't know, and that then causes this misconception that Genji is like really OP. Because now if I talk about from the POV that we're going up the ladder, you'll start to see that there's less complaints about Genji and there's more complaints about characters like Sojourn, more complaints about like people that are more consistent on Hanzo and Widowmaker, really good tracers. So as consistency goes up, those characters begin to become a lot more viable, and characters like Genji, well, in this case just Genji in particular because his neutral gameplay is so garbage, he begins to phase out. Healing is incredibly strong in the game. Any burst combos that he wants to do is pointless. His one-shot combo, which was extremely rare to do anyway, has also been removed. So this misconception of Genji being so OP in low elo and pub stomping lobbies is always been a little bit silly. Like, I genuinely believe that if you're good at any hero, you can pop off in low elo lobbies without a problem, because like the criteria that you need to be playing around with is the idea that, am I exploiting the mistake of these other players? For example, like, we know that Pharah doesn't necessarily work the higher up you go because of how good aim gets on hitscan players. Like, even mid diamond and above, hitscan players actually start to get pretty good with their aim. Now, their positioning and game sense might be another thing, but their aim has become more consistent. So playing Pharah becomes a lot more challenging. However, playing Pharah in the lower elo lobbies where the aim is not as consistent, where they're making basic mistakes and things like that, is very easy to exploit and very easy to climb from that point on. We've seen it on multiple different occasions from different content creators and from, like, many people like using Pharah to exploit the fact that people just can't aim. So I actually say this for any character. Like, if you're good at Hanzo, you'll just get 2-3 picks every fight and your team wins off of that. If you're good at Widow, you will just, like, the lobby is just a point and click simulator for you. If you're good at Roadhog, you'll control fights, you will get the best picks, you will open up, you will just do everything that you want to do. Same goes over to Doomfist, right? But we cannot label these characters as like overpowered. Like, we have to like respect the fact that the people that have put in the time and effort to get good at these characters, that relatively speaking are not that easy to play. Now, an argument can be made for Roadhog, but like, if I look at the rest of the roster, like Doom, Hanzo, Widowmaker, Tracer, Sojourn for the average player, and Genji, these are characters that definitely need a lot of good like commitment, time, understanding how to play the characters. And in some cases, Sojourn and Widowmaker are very demanding for mechanical skill. Hanzo as well, he is a projectile hero, but you do need to have good predictability about movement and things like that. Because the higher up you go, people will be smart with their positioning, people will be smart about just in general how to play the game, use their cooldowns. you're not going to pop off as much. Like, you reach a point where you're like, yeah, I'm popping off, and then you're like, okay, I can't pop off. I've hit my limit on the skill curve. I need to now get better at the game. Maybe I need to expand my hero pool. Maybe I need to learn how to play this character better. Maybe I have to look for an alternative who might do more than this character. You know, like, for example, when I feel like I'm not getting enough value from Genji or I need more damage, usually my picks are Pharah or Echo. Usually I go Echo because we're struggling to kill a tank, and just the healing is insane, and the supports all have invulnerability and insane escapability tools. So it's just better if I try to help my tank burst down the front line and go from there. Or I might go Pharah if the map favors it and just farm the backline and then go from there. So my point basically is like, as we as a player base start to go up along the skill curve, we have to identify that we cannot, like, Overwatch is just not a game where you can stick on one character. Even though they've tried to promote that and lie about it, it's not the case. Like, we have to each respect each other's skill curves. Like, okay, if somebody has started on Moira today, tomorrow they're going to be learning how to play, you know, like 𝐓𝐈𝐈. The day after, they'll probably start learning how to play Ana. Now, not obviously in that time frame, like, you know, like a week from that point, another week from that point, or a month, like whenever they feel comfortable. My point basically is, it's a message to every player watching this video today, and not just like this whole philosophy around the Genji problem, which is, you know, the only person that holds yourself back from doing anything better, whether it's in a game or whatever, it's you. Do your best to improve, do your best to do better. Yes, there's going to be some games and cases where your teammates are going to throw. Yes, there's going to be lobbies where you're definitely going to get rolled, but trust me, for each of those lobbies and situations, you're also going to have lobbies where you might be the one rolling the enemy team, and you might be the one just dominating those lobbies, right? So always strive to do better, always strive to do your best. I am doing free VOD reviews on live streams this coming weekend, or whenever I can slide a live stream in during the week. So if you guys want me to help you out get better, you know, feel free to drop by. But that is what I wanted to talk about. The Genji problem is how he kind of like is perceived in lower elo, where he just overwhelms players because of a fun, like just a lot of mistakes. And then like the higher up you go, like Genji is just seen as like a throw pick, because it's like, oh, we all know that this character can't actually do anything, you know, like in the mid fight, or just like his burst damage is just kind of pathetic. So unless you're like playing picture perfectly on him, he's just not going to do anything. So that's kind of just what I wanted to talk about today and get the videos going again. Guys, what's your thoughts on the state of Genji? Do you think Genji is powerful? Do you think Genji is underwhelming? What do you think? And what do you think how he's going to be in season 9? I actually think Genji might be okay-ish, but definitely we need to have a quick look at burst characters. Like, we cannot just leave burst characters in a bad state going into season 9. So I hope Blizzard, you know, has a plan and they figured it out. And for what it's worth, like the patch notes leaks that I did were basically true, because at some point the bigger content creators would have addressed it, and the fact that they didn't basically means that yes, we are basically heading into the Overwatch 3 era of Overwatch. Anyways, guys, that's going to be it for this video. If you want to support the channel for free, you can do so by hitting like and subscribe, and you can let me know your thoughts about, you know, today's video down below, and I will see you guys in tomorrow's video.